Welcome to Envisioned Broadcasting, the station designed to encourage, equip, and empower you for growth and success. Presents Women Emerge with Melissa Lambert, a show that shines a light on spiritual growth, health, purpose, and financial education. It's time to emerge and begin to live out your dreams, walk into your destiny, while making a difference in the lives of many.
Welcome to Women Emerge with Melissa Lambert. I am your host, and it's always an honor to come before you another Wednesday. Happy Wednesday and happy new month, y'all. I am excited because today is truly a special show. Again, the show is being sponsored by Women Emerge Network, a network created for women, men, and children to help bring families' dreams, their destinies, and their businesses together. Today is Wellness Wednesday. Every Wednesday, I ask you to tune in so you can learn about everything wellness. When it comes to wellness, many people think only of their health, but on this show, we will discuss spiritual wellness, our health, our wealth, and our mental wellness. And today's special show, we're going to be talking about mental wellness. We have a phenomenal woman who is in this field that wants to really bring some information that will help you along your journey. Today's topic, we're discussing the effect childhood trauma has has had on adults. Again, the effect of childhood trauma has had on adults. And I have I have the honor to bring to the stage a wonderful woman. And she is truly phenomenal because of who she is, what she brings to the table, and how powerful her impact is when it comes to the community at large. And you will not only just hear from her, but you will also understand why she exists to do what she do. This is Mrs. Bertha Dandridge White. Mrs. Bertha, can you join us and tell us a little bit about who you are? What's your background and why mental health today? So please join us, Miss Bertha. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you for having me on your show. Well, when we ask who is Bertha L. White, well, I've been blessed to be a distinguished clinical therapist and mental health consultant. What I try to do is passionately serve the Maryland and Virginia communities. This is through my thriving practice. It is important for me to champion the well being of youth, couples, families, and entire communities. As a new author, I have helped to develop the best selling anthology, Baldness with Boldness, Unmasking Alopecia and Revealing Resilience. So I'm also, and thankfully, I am a visionary founder and CEO of Agent of Change Mental Health Services and Resources, along with Harambe Youth of Southern Maryland. I'm thankful that my team and my expertise has been spotlighted as we were named one of Maryland's top mental health professionals by Top Doctors Interviews in 2022. Um, I think most importantly, when we ask who is Bertha White, I recognize that I'm still under reconstruction, so I embrace
Mm.
a lifelong journey of learning and personal growth and always striving to better myself as well as those around me. So that's who Bertha White
Wow.
is.
Oh, Miss Bertha White. I love it. I love it. And I love how much you serve our community and you do it on purpose. So thank you so much for
Hmm.
your service there in the
I
Maryland and
appreciate
Virginia
it.
area.
Hmm.
You're welcome. So, we're talking about the topic, the effect childhood trauma has had on adults. And we're going to dive into a couple of questions. And I want to make sure that all our listeners have clarity because you have people from all walks of life that's listening to this, and more likely adults, and they don't realize how much their childhood trauma had
Hmm.
so much effect on where they are today. So, how can
Hmm.
early childhood trauma impact mental health in adulthood? And what are some common long term effects that will have?
Hmm. That is an excellent question, Miss Melissa. I think first we need to identify what childhood trauma means. Now, it includes being a child and being a part of or a victim of physical, sexual, or emotional abuse. Or you could have witnessed that abuse. Being a part of a natural disaster, a serious accident, or life threatening illness are signs and symptoms. When you were bullied, if you were bullied as a child, or you even witnessed or were involved in violence in your community, those those are, signs that those are descriptions, I should say, of what childhood trauma might be from. Now, the common long-term effects of those childhood traumas could look like repressing the trauma. Perhaps you don't recall a large chunk of your childhood.
Mm.
Maybe there were developmental delays. There could be current difficulties in managing adult relationships. Perhaps right now, as an adult, they're experiencing unpredictable type feelings and problems where they can't regulate their emotions. They might have behavior that mimic the abuse. So be mindful of these things. Most importantly, too, we have to consider that these long term effects can lead to additional disorders like anxiety and depression.
Wow. And I like how you just throw that in there in the sense of how it can lead into depression and anxiety. So when we
Hmm.
think about just knowing that, what are effective coping mechanism, right? Because a lot of these adults that have faced a lot of childhood trauma, they sometimes suppress it, they
Hmm.
sometimes deal with it, or they sometimes just over time it just become like a ripple effect and an
Hmm.
explosion happens. So what are the
Hmm.
effective coping mechanism for adults who experience childhood trauma that you can actually share?
Hmm. Well, I would say first, I am hopeful that they get to the position where they can seek professional help and support. And that should be from a licensed and certified mental health professional. You know, um, it's important that that professional can help you to understand what you're going through is real and that you're not the only one. That is important. I think a coping mechanism would be for the individual to give themselves some grace and to learn how to love themselves and make themselves a priority. If they wanted to try other coping mechanisms that can be effective, I would suggest exercising, practice mindfulness and meditation, feed your spiritual growth. Those are, just a few ways that one could uh, use coping mechanisms, just to help themselves along day to day. And that is in addition to going to a therapist who can, guide you into developing goals that you can work through that will accomplish what you're looking for. It may include additional strategies beyond those that I just said.
Mm, I love that. And I love the fact that you shared the coping mechanism of just when you think about just having a therapy. So how can therapy or counseling aid in healing from childhood trauma? Because we want to be able to not just identify it, not just know that it exists, but we need, as you mentioned, a coping mechanism. And I believe that that coping mechanism can exist, but we need to really push it to a place where we can get the professional help that's needed. So, Ms. Bertha,
Mhm,
how
mhm.
can therapy or counseling aid in the healing journey from childhood trauma, and what type of therapy are most beneficial for this
Mhm.
per se?
Okay. I believe that the therapeutic process starts when a client seeks therapy. That's the first therapeutic process. They've gone through this long journey to get to this point where they seek professional help. So if a client were coming to me into my office, first of all, I would thank them for coming in. I know the journey is difficult, all those steps that it took for them to get there. I would make them feel as comfortable as possible, and then I would listen. I would
Mm.
listen. And then I thank them for sharing their story with me. I validate understanding that of all the steps they shared with me that they've taken, um, to recognize and to address the problem. This whole evaluation and assessment is me listening and asking questions so that I can understand who they are. I give them the freedom to do that. It's done with respect and it's done with dignity. I think the most important thing to remember in terms of therapeutic approaches that are the most beneficial is that the most important thing in the outcome of therapy, the most important factor is your rapport, is your
Mm.
rapport with your client. That will determine, it is the strongest determining factor of how the outcome of therapy is going to be. And so when I say someone comes into my office and I'm listening to them and I'm making them feel welcomed, and all of that, that is developing a positive rapport. Once
Mm.
that's done, the assessment is done. You and your client determine what the goals of therapy are going to be. So, based on each individual, your therapeutic approach might be different because you have to tailor it for that person. But
Mm.
without question, the first approach is developing a rapport.
Mm. Wow. Wow. I
Hmm.
love that. And you know what? And I think about just my last time I had a therapy session, I remember
Hmm.
my therapist, she had to build that rapport from the door because of what I was coming in for. I wasn't coming in for
Hmm.
childhood trauma. I was coming in
Hmm.
because I had lost my son. I had I delivered my son, but he was stillborn. So I went to
Hmm.
grief therapy, and
Hmm.
she built such a rapport with me that I felt like I
Hmm.
was so comfortable. I didn't
Good.
feel, even though I was like expressing my feelings of how devastating
Hmm.
this part of my life was. She built that rapport where I was comfortable, and she then also
Exactly.
gave me some strategies and some help in process on what needs to help me through the journey of grief. So
Exactly. Hmm.
I agree with you.
Hmm. And
We when
two,
we do.
that
Mhm.
communication starts with a phone consultation. You can tell
Yep.
from someone's voice.
Mhm.
Are they listening to you? Do they feel rushed? And I'm so glad that you were able to connect with a therapist. But I tell you, for the listeners who have tried a therapist and felt like they weren't a good fit, try again.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Try
I
again.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
really important, especially dealing with certain issues,
Hmm.
especially trauma and
Yeah.
childhood trauma on top of that. It's like a bag. You can carry that bag and it can weigh you down over time.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
like that you mentioned, try again. Even if you tried before, try again. So
Hmm.
when, again, everyone, you are listening to Women Emerge with Melissa Lambert. It is Wellness Wednesday, and we have the amazing Miss Bertha L. White here, and we're talking about the effect childhood trauma has had on adults. You may have gone through something in your childhood and you don't realize the effect it's been having on you as an adult. Well, we're about to give you some information that may help you on this journey to actually start taking better care of yourself. Start looking within and seeing how you can get the help that you need. And Miss Bertha kind of really tapped into certain questions that was asked so we can kind of gauge ourselves on what we can do to help ourselves heal through this journey of this childhood trauma. So I'm going to ask again. So when it comes to the roles that is played in our support system, what role do support system, such as our family, our friends, our community, Miss Bertha, what role do they play in managing and overcoming the trauma experience at a young age? Can you express that
Hmm.
for us today?
Well, provided the family member or friend uh, aren't the abuser, you have to consider that. Then they can be of no support. However, family, friends can play a really pivotal role when it comes to supporting and encouraging their loved ones to seek professional help. That's the
Mm,
beginning of the journey. It could very well be with a family member or a friend who supports their loved one enough to send them, to guide them to a professional for
mhm,
support. And then also, when you mention community support, let me say that that includes support groups of, you know, folks that have similar experiences as you and can understand what you're saying, and you feel like you're not alone in a place where people who have experienced something similar to you can suggest healthy strategies to help you to, address those traumatic responses that come as adults as a result of childhood trauma.
mm.
Hmm.
And you know what? You're right because you find so many of the childhood trauma happen from the home.
Hmm.
Yesterday I was talking to a young lady. I actually saw her at the. We went out to eat. My sister and I. We went out to get something to eat, and
Hmm.
this young lady, she looked like she was choking. So I rushed over there to help her. And,
Hmm.
after making sure she was okay, went back down to my seat and sat there. Then, maybe about 15 or 20 minutes into our meal, she came over and was in tears and said, "Thank you so much for coming to my rescue. You don't even know me, but you came." And then she started
Hmm.
expressing herself. And then she talked about a childhood trauma that occurred for her to her mother, how her
Hmm.
mom had a situation at 12 with her stepfather. And when she addressed it to her grandmother, she told me she was surprised at, little girl, the young lady was surprised what her grandmother's response was. So even at that moment, she couldn't get the answer she needed from her grandmother because her grandmother, you looked at the daughter as the one that enhanced her, um, kind of pushed on herself to this husband that's a grown man.
So
So
now,
you do have to be
yes,
careful.
yes,
You do
that
do
is
have to be careful.
re-victimizing. That is re-victimizing
Ooh.
the victim. It really is. It's,
Mm.
yeah, that's exactly what it is, which is why so many children who were abused don't say anything to anyone.
Mhm.
But with a
Yes.
child who can't express their feelings about what they've, experienced, it will come out in their behavior, and it will
Mhm.
continue to come out in their behavior as they age.
Mhm. And it's true
And
because when I thought
mhm,
about it, Miss Bertha, when I think about just this conversation with this young lady and just what you just said, I think about just this mother who was re-victimized by her own mother and was blamed for at 12 to for coming on to a grown man. She then grew up as an adult and had no connection to her own daughter. So it never got better for her where she was able to deal with that situation because over time she couldn't, as an adult she got had a daughter, but then her she wasn't able to express and protect her daughter because no one was able to protect her. So it does come into effect when it comes to childhood trauma that's never been dealt with. It does lead into our adulthood and we don't know the right way to handle it. And this is
I
the
am
outcome of
hopeful
it.
that this conversation that you had with her will lead her to therapy, so
Yeah.
she can just reveal all of these pieces of what
Mhm.
she's talking about. She has to focus on her
Mm.
and not
Yeah.
anyone else that's involved yet. Focus
Yeah.
on her expressing her story, you know, forgiving herself and all that she needs to go through in therapy before she's ready to confront anyone about anything, her mother
Yeah.
or anyone else about anything. Address herself first
Mm, mm.
is
You
what I
said
would
something
suggest
that is
for
so
anyone.
powerful. That's
Hmm.
powerful, Miss Bertha. You know why? Because we will always take it off the light off ourselves and shine it on someone else.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
We don't know
Yeah.
how to make ourselves a priority, and that's not a
Mm,
selfish thing. Making yourself a priority just means addressing your mental well being, your
mm.
physical health, and feed your spiritual health. Make your whole self a priority. You're important enough to do so.
Wow. I love it. I love it. I love how comfortable this conversation is being because it's a very tight and hard topic to discuss,
It is.
trauma
Mm-hmm.
in your childhood and how it
Mm-hmm.
affects your adulthood. I mean, that's a
Mm-hmm.
really really tight situation. So, how can individual recognize and address unresolved trauma from their childhood that may be affecting their adult lives now?
Well, first, let me say recognizing trauma in your childhood can be extremely difficult because you may not be able to recollect large chunks of your childhood. It's repressed.
Mhm,
It might be
mhm,
repressed. And then, in addition, I would say you can recognize and address trauma by remembering those things that I said are common effects that childhood trauma has on adults. Remember
mm,
that. Repressing the trauma, developmental delays, difficulty managing relationships, unpredictable feelings and problems with trouble regulating your emotions, behaviors that mimic the abuse and the development of anxiety, which would be extreme worry, fear, nervousness, overthinking, you know, and all. And then depression, deep feelings of worthlessness, hopelessness. You're tired, you don't have any energy, you're not interested in your activities, and you isolate. If any of those things are happening, any of those things at all,
mm,
that's how you understand that those issues are unresolved from somewhere, from
mm,
somewhere.
mm,
hmm And that
mm,
those symptoms are signs of PTSD. That's
mm.
all we need to know. That's what we need to know as friends, as families, in the medical community, in just the community at large. We need to know just what to look for. We need to know if someone comes to us and say I'm experiencing this, and this, and I don't know what it is.
Mm.
You
I
need to
love
speak
that.
with a
So,
professional. Hmm.
mhm, wow. I love how you express this, and you also mentioned PTSD. And just in case the listeners are listening, how do you even what is PTSD? I'm going to just we're going to another level right now, but I want to
Hmm.
make sure the listeners are hearing you. What
Hmm.
is PTSD, and how do you identify if you do have that?
Okay. The symptoms for childhood trauma are pretty much the same as adults. You would look for, in terms of knowing if you have PTSD or what it looks like, being involved in a childhood trauma means you were abused in some way, sexually, emotionally, verbally abused, or you witnessed it, like between parents. If you were a part of a disaster, a serious illness, you were bullied, or there was violence within your community. We just experienced the pandemic and all that it brought. Okay. We want to remember that those are the things that you would look for. That's how you recognize it. That's how you know that it is unresolved. If you are having flashbacks of something, if you are
Mhm.
avoiding people, places, and things, and you may not even know why, if you can't tolerate certain smells or to be touched a certain way. Again, if you have a difficult time regulating, your emotions and the way you think about the world and yourself has changed, that's what you look out for. If those symptoms and behavioral responses have been present for more than 6 months, and they are as intense, as is described, you are likely to be diagnosed with PTSD. There are other circumstances and, factors to take into consideration when diagnosing, but those are the things. Now, you can experience something less intense than PTSD. You could have experienced some of those events that I just spoke of and have
Mhm.
intrusive thoughts, have bad memories, have negative feelings, but it only lasted a couple of weeks, no more than a month, then that is not post traumatic stress disorder. That's something called acute stress disorder. It's less
Mhm.
intense and it doesn't last as long. You can
Mhm.
also look for signs and symptoms of an adjustment disorder. That's when there's a situation that happened in your life and you're having a difficult time adapting.
Hmm.
And the difficult time that you're having could come with anxiety, or the difficult time that you're having adapting to this situation or this circumstance is coming with depression or, a mix. So I would say if you're experiencing any of those things that I just said, don't try to self diagnose yourself. Go
Mm-mm.
to a mental health professional who can help you to understand what it is that you're experiencing. But again, you
Mhm.
owe it to yourself to know that something's not right. You owe
Yeah.
it to yourself to make yourself a priority and seek help. If you
Wow.
were a
Wow.
diabetic, you would go to the doctor.
Yes. Yeah. True.
You would follow
True.
the instructions. Change your diet, get some exercise, you take your medication. The same with our mental health. hmm And there is no
Yes.
stigma involved anymore. You hear the word therapist, counselor, in just communication with anybody at work, within family, in church even. It's not
Mhm.
taboo to get yourself some help.
Mhm.
And let me say
True.
how much strength there is involved and resilience there is involved in saying, I got to help myself and then
Mhm.
doing it.
Wow. Okay,
hmm
okay. Wow.
hmm
Wow, that's amazing. And I'm so thankful that you expressed this last part of the message because I want people to get it. You know, you matter. You are
hmm
important. It is
hmm
important for you to not self sabotage, but self first. Get you in
hmm
order, get you
hmm
together so you can be a better person, a better woman, a better man, a better mother, a better father, a better sister, a better brother. You can be better
Exactly.
for yourself, but also for those who are around you. So, Miss
hmm
Bertha, I mean, again, you are listening to Woman Emerge with Melissa Lambert. I have the honor to host on the show today, Miss Bertha L. White, and we're talking about the effect childhood trauma has had on adults. And we're talking about it today because we know that, our well-being, it matters. We know that our mental health matters. And
hmm
Miss Bertha, I heard something in the great. I mean, I heard something a couple of days ago that something is kind of brewing in your area, and you
Mhm.
have a new brand that is coming forth. Tell us, a little bit about your new brand and where you're going right now, and also, if you can, just also let us know how we can follow and connect back with you.
Thank you so much for asking. Well, Miss Melissa, this season I'm going to be launching my own brand. It's called Bertha Arise. And I cannot wait to see where this pivotal movement is going to go, all the way across our country and globally. So keep your eyes open. More information is coming. I can be reached at info at berthaarise.com. And that's B as in beautiful, ERTHAARISE.com, or agent of change at verizon.net. You can check out my webpage, which is www.agentofchangeservices.com, or follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/Bertha Dandridge White. And Dandridge is spelled DANDRIDGE. That's how you can
Wow.
reach me. Keep
Wow,
your eyes
amazing.
open. Yes, yes, yes. Mhm.
And I know for a fact this new brand of yours is going to change the game of mental wellness. And I know we have a couple more minutes that's left on the clock, and I really want to ask you because I love homework assignments. And I know when people go to therapy, I got a homework assignment from my therapist to go home
Mhm.
and actually use
Mhm.
and make sure,
Mhm.
like, a week later coming back, I literally
Mhm.
took her strategy or whatever steps that she asked me to do or coping
Mhm.
mechanisms she asked me to do and do it. So if the listeners are
That
listening,
is
right, well, the listeners that are listening,
critical.
it is.
Yes, that is critical. A couple of things. When you come into therapy, you consent to these things, these strategies. You agree to do your part. Your part is when your therapist says, try this strategy 2 times a week, so on and so forth. And you do it because it's important that you be able to say, I tried it and it worked, or I tried it and it didn't. And I gave it ample time. I tried, for a longer period of time. Your therapist should know to pivot just a little bit so you can get the most out of your time with her. Next, no one comes to my therapy sessions without a notepad and an ink pen. You write down what we're talking about so you always have something to refer to, because understand, traditionally therapy ends when you walk out of your therapist door.
Mhm. Mhm.
Your job is to take those skills and use those skills. Journal, practice. Understand you're going to be in an uncomfortable space. You are getting ready to
Mhm.
change something in your life that's been set for years. Give yourself some grace.
Mhm.
Really. Put yourself first. Make yourself a priority. Try these strategies. Develop your own strategies. Understand this is tailored for you. So it's got to be effective for you. Again, if you have not developed a rapport with your therapist, that's important because therapy is about you, not your therapist.
Mm.
That is critical, critical to be comfortable. But you're going to be in this uncomfortable space. But if you got a rapport with your therapist, she's going to guide you through, and the space is safe for you
Mhm.
to be
Mhm.
transparent with yourself.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So your
Yes.
therapist that gave homework assignment, that is because the homework assignment is tailored specifically for you, and it is to help promote growth towards whatever your goal is for therapy to begin with. You got to be working on
Yes.
something. Mhm.
Yes. Yes,
Mhm.
I love that. And I love how you express you have to be working on something. So it's not just a one, one window. You can't just say it's only one-sided, right? It has to be both sides. You're not just only into therapy just to hear her voice or his voice. You're in there to get the work done. So you have to do the work inside and outside. So again, Miss Bertha,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for gracing the platform. And I truly believe that there's so much greatness that's going to be coming forth. And I'm glad that you covered as much basis as we can regarding
Mhm.
childhood trauma and how it has an effect on us as adults. And we
Mhm.
really want to be able to re-listen to it. Don't rush through this. Go back
Yeah.
on Thursday. Thursday we do have it uploaded on all 12 top podcasts. I want you to sit down with a notebook and I need you
Mhm.
to write down everything that Miss Bertha talked
Mhm.
about and
Mhm.
understanding exactly what's next for you. So I'm going to just have you do a quick 3 minute, less than 2 minute summary. So what will be their next step, knowing that they're just listening to you share this information? What is their
Mhm.
next step? The first step we talked about is getting through finding a counselor. So if you can just
Mhm.
give us a quick 2 minutes or less, what is their next step so they can now move into getting the help they need regarding this
Uh-huh.
childhood trauma?
Okay. So once you have found a therapist that you can develop a good rapport with, make sure that the therapist understands what you're saying your journey was like. When the therapist understands what your journey was like and what it's and the impact that it has right now, it's kind of like connecting the dots. Your therapist will do this evaluation and assessment of everything you say that's happening in your life right now. That assessment includes background information. That's how we know what the origin possibly could be of the problem. And this is to be explained. You got to understand what your therapist is saying. It's got to make sense to you. You have to allow it to do that. And you have to understand the only way to get beyond is to be in this uncomfortable space. There's growth there. Once
Mhm,
you learn how to cope with it, you can navigate your life through the past experience of trauma.
mhm.
That's what I would say.
Wow, perfect. Well said. Well said. Again, thank you so much, Miss Bertha, for tuning in and being a guest speaker here. And our
Mhm.
topic on the Wellness Wednesday was the effect childhood trauma has had on adults. And we had the amazing Miss Bertha L. White, who really has graced our presence and helped us understand a little bit on what we need to do. And you just heard the final information is what's the next step. So please follow those steps and get the help that you need. Please don't forget to follow me and tune into our podcast every Wednesday. I'm here every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's live on the radio at womanemergeradio.com. And then on Thursday, it uploads on all 12 top podcasts. But on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will tune in again to the radio at womanemergeradio.com. And on Friday, that episode is uploaded to all 12 top podcasts. So you can tune in there. You can follow me at Melissa S. Lambert on Facebook, Women Emerge Network, and Women Emerge Wellness on Facebook. On Instagram, Women Emerge Now. And you can go to our website, womenemergenetwork.com, become a member so you can take heed and be able to be a part of our community. If you are somebody that's looking for some form of service when it comes to discovering who you are and becoming a client of mine, go to Coach Melissa, that's CoachMelissa.com. Thank you again, Miss Bertha. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Women Emerge with Melissa Lambert. If you found this topic to be helpful, please share it with a friend, share it with a family member, share it with someone that
Mhm.
you like, love, and trust. They need it. Our mental
Mhm.
health is important. So please don't
Absolutely.
keep this episode a secret. Miss Bertha wants it to be told around the world. It's not mental wellness
Absolutely.
is not just for America. It's for a
That's
global
right.
impact, right, Miss Bertha? So thanks again for
Absolutely.
tuning in. You're welcome. So everyone, you take care, take charge, and be great. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Women Emerge with Melissa Lambert, where Melissa speaks with leaders, experts, and motivators who share their journeys and their stories through personal and professional growth, knowledgeable tips, and lessons learned that will empower you to grow. Follow Melissa and Women Emerge Network on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at MELLISASLAMBERT and at Women Emerge Network. And visit www.womenemergenetwork.com. Remember, when you know better, you can do better, especially when God is for you.